This is Natural AF, half American, half Australian, all natural. I'm your host, Isaac.
And I'm Alexa.
In this show, we get into all things connecting to nature, undoing societal programming that holds us back. There's a lot of artificial stuff that we've been handed over the years. In fact, for many of us, our entire worldview was brought to us by the public school system, educating us in the way that the world may be. And in that worldview are a lot of things like habits and behaviors around emotions and what's appropriate and how to approach problems. And most of it's all up in the head and not a lot of it is in the body. So in today's episode, we're getting out of our head and into our bodies with Angela Nicholson.
Yes, Ange, another beautiful friend we've met through the Living Free movement. She's an absolute gem. And so when we first met her, we're totally into the homeopathy. She was actually the one that we called when I was in Sydney and having my explant surgery. I had our homeopathic kit with us, but we needed some extra stuff. I ended up getting some side effects from some of the medications I was taking. We called Ange. She threw a remedy together and it did the trick. So she's always handy to have around.
Yeah.
And it was actually Ange who introduced me to focusing, which we're going to talk a lot about today, which is a beautiful technique, just really simply put, about getting back into the body. And so I first focused with Ange, and then I went on and did the level 1 course. And I've focused with Ange since, and she's such an amazing woman. I think everyone's going to love this conversation, and I hope that you get a lot out of it.
Yeah. She's got a very sweet, pleasant manner about explaining things and experiencing things. And I think you're going to get a lot out of this because there's so much depth to what we're talking about. And in my head, I'm connecting all these strings and all these dots to other things that are completely non-related to focusing, but there's similarities and there's a lot of crossover to my lived experience.
Yeah, well, it really is just about cultivating presence and being with what's in the here and now, in the present moment.
Yeah, and I'll stick this in there too because I didn't want to derail the conversation with all my different rabbit trails, but for any guys that might listen to this show, don't just tune it out and flip to the next one because it's not like super in your wheelhouse as far as masculine things that you would do. We've had a few guests on that have spoken to this from like a Navy SEAL perspective. And Commander Mark Devine was very much involved with doing meditation and present awareness. And I learned a lot of that initially from him. In the military, we talk about equanimity. We talk about being able to not be rocked and rattled by literally bombs going off or getting shot at. So that's like a very extreme version of what this is. But Ange will explain later in the episode an instance where she was able to like witness a feeling come up and not just blurt it out or not just jump into a fight, not just be emotional. And I think that's really important for a lot of people. Especially men need to be a bit more bedrock, a bit more unflappable. You don't have to be like a robot. You don't need to be that extreme about it, but you need to have a much better handle on your emotions. And we talked about that in the episode previously with Nellie Barnett 2 episodes ago about men really need to be more in control of their emotions. But this is the way to do it without repressing anything, without, going on some other bender on a deep end, going away from what's true and what's real. This is really, really an interesting practice, and I'm excited to start learning more about it and actually experiencing it.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, balance and harmony. And that's why I think focusing really is for everyone. It's a very yin practice, but it's so beneficial for men to be able to cultivate that as well within themselves. So in the theme of living free, and just another friend that we've met through the Living Free movement. We've had so many guests on from the Living Free movement, and a lot of them are going to be at the Living Free Festival this weekend. So when this comes out, we're going to be leaving the very next day to head down to Pillar Valley, and we're going to be there for the whole weekend. We're so excited, so pumped. I'm actually the first workshop up on Friday afternoon. So I'm actually so glad I get to get it over and done with and then just enjoy the festival. Isaac's going to be emceeing pretty much the whole time, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be on the main stage Friday for pretty much every event, all the musicians and singers and speakers and all that. But yeah, it's going to be a fun family meeting, an extended family meeting of sorts. The kind of people that resonate and show up are the exact kind of people that are meant to be there. And it's exciting. Last year was really, it was like a different version of other festivals like this that I've been to. And the Living Free movement has its own flavor, its own version. It's, it's the Australian version. It's very exotic. It's down under. And I don't know, just the ideas and the warmth. And there's just a lot of warmth in this community. So
yeah, and this is going to be such an incredible event. It's always family friendly, but this year they've got even more activities for the kids. There's a whole stage, a whole tent just for the kids' activities. They're going to be doing MMA and fire starting and silent discos. And yeah, it's going to be so much fun. So if you're listening to this when it comes out, you still have a couple of days. So you can head to livingfreefestival.org. If you want to grab tickets, use our code NATURALAF and you'll get a sweet discount on all the tickets. And of course, if you're not going to catch us at the festival, but you'd like to get your hands on some Natural Art Form products, we are available online at naturalartform.com. And you can also get a sweet discount there using our code NATURALAF10. And when you're there, don't forget to sign up to the newsletter because that's where you'll always get the latest updates and sales and promotions and all the good stuff.
Yes, definitely go and sign up for that newsletter. I've got an interesting advancement in a product that I've been working on. And if you're on our newsletter, you'll be the first to find out when that drops. This one's going to be a bit of a more specialized version of one of our products, and I can't wait to announce it. We're going to do a soft launch at the festival, something I just kind of threw that in the pot.
As Isaac does, just flying by the seat of his pants.
Just a small test to see, to see, what people think of it, what the reception is of it. I'm excited for it. I'm going to use it for things that I'll discuss in a newsletter at a future date. So sign up for that. If you've purchased a product before and are thinking of buying again, consider sending us a review because you can save a lot of money that way, folks. A lot of money. But the discount codes are 10% for any review, 15% for a photo with your review, and 20% for a video with your review. And you can add those to any other discount. So if there's a free shipping discount we do in the future or the Natural AF 10 discount, you can add those together. But yeah, we love your reviews. We're always focused on growing the business organically. And it really helps to have people's testimonials so that other people, when they see the product, they can just understand that it works. So if you really support us and you believe in our product and you are open to doing that, we would greatly appreciate that.
And a very super exciting announcement from me this week. I think I may have mentioned it on some previous episodes. I've kind of been sprinkling the breadcrumbs on Instagram. If you follow me there, I am finally dropping the link to join the priority waitlist for my brand new group coaching program called Aligned Woman. It's just for women, as the name implies. And this is really going to be all about personal transformation. So, as listeners of this show, a lot of you will know a lot of my journey, a lot of the things that I've overcome. And this program really is a culmination of my experiences, everything I've learned along the way, because I really did stumble through a lot of my healing over sort of the last 10 to 15 years. And, I created the program that I wish I had when I was going through all that, and I've kind of like streamlined everything so that it's neatly packaged up and it's going to be delivered live over 8 weeks. It's going to be like limited spaces. So it's going to be a very intimate group. But also one of the reasons it's really beneficial to join the priority list so that you do get first access, because it's probably going to sell out pretty quickly because there are only limited spots available.
I imagine there's things for limiting beliefs. Is it something that you're going to help with? Relationship problems or bad patterns like ruts that people are in?
Yeah, look, it's really all about cultivating a better relationship with yourself. And there's so many layers to that, but really looking at what are the blocks in your life? Why? What are the things that you're wanting? What's holding you back from, having the life that you truly desire? And so whether that's, having the man in your life that you're really wanting, having the job or career of your dreams, if that's something that you're wanting, if it's babies, if you're wanting to have babies, and
what
it's
if
not
she doesn't
happening.
know what she wants? What if a woman just feels lost and doesn't have a direction right now?
Absolutely. We're going to be diving deep into purpose because that's been a huge part of my journey. I had no idea what my purpose was for most of my life. I was just floating through life like a plastic bag. And And so whether you know your purpose or not, if you're completely lost, I mean, honestly, that was me. I was completely lost in life. I just didn't know what I wanted, didn't know what kind of man I wanted. My relationships were terrible. I was deeply depressed. I was very anxious. So really this is for anyone struggling with pretty much any aspect of life, because what we're covering are universal. They're universal truths. And so when you get to the core of that, it will literally transform any aspect of your life.
That's powerful and exciting. And I can't wait to see the results afterwards. These women are going to love it.
So excited. Can't wait.
Cool. Well, if we have anything else to announce, now's the time to get it out. All right. Well, let's get into the episode with Angela Nicholson and explore homeopathy and focusing.
Enjoy. Nicholson brings together what has worked in her own health and individuation journey and incorporates these elements into her practice. She combines trauma-informed, embodied homeopathy with inner relationship focusing and the work of Byron Katie to support her clients in a practical and meaningful way. She also guides clients in mapping their nervous system and shifting limiting beliefs and old stories so that clients can continue to grow and evolve moment by moment. Her work is driven by genuine passion, and she values the depth of connection that can occur when two people are fully present with each other. In that space, she believes real insight, awareness, and change become possible. When mind, body, and spirit are in balance, she sees the potential to be one powerful being on this planet.
Well, welcome to the show, Angela. So good to see you again. This is the first time we've had you on. I know you've listened to our episodes a bit. We've known you well. You're friends of the family, but we're also on the Living Free platform together, and we're coming up to the festival. So this is a great time to do this interview. And I think, though, once this episode airs, it'll be is it the week of the festival?
The week of, yeah. And it feels like this has been such a long time coming, because when we first relaunched the podcast, which was right after the first Living Free Festival, I had reached out to you and was like, we'd love to have you on to talk about homeopathy. And then it kind of turned into, we'd love to have you on to talk about focusing. So now we just get to talk about everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
But you know what? Things happen when they're in the flow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where do we want to start in now? Want to get the origin story, the hero's journey?
Yeah, we'd love for you to share, a bit of your journey, and with, I guess sort of how you came to homeopathy, because that's sort of what you've been practicing for the longest. And then also how you found focusing, and now how you sort of intertwine the both together.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. The way I like to look at people's lives is from the mountaintop. So when I reflect about my journey, it's like the first 20 years were about being ill, being sick, being unwell, being in what I perceived was a dysfunctional family. And then the next 20 years, from 20 to 40, was about finding my health, going on a real journey with it and becoming well again, physically well, but alongside, with that is emotional and mental wellness, and then like the 40s to 60s. So I'm right in the middle of that now. And that's really kind of defining what I really, it's this constant evolution about what I really, really want to do, what really makes my heart sing. And so now, with coming to sort of the menopause time, it's like, I don't have much time left, to really home in on my individuation journey. So when I was younger, I was so sick. I had so many things like polycystic ovaries, chronic fatigue. And IBS. I was a mess. And so what I observed was people around me having conventional medicine and my own experience of conventional medicine. And I never saw resolution, their chronic problems just continued. So when I was about 17, 18, I was having a lot of respiratory tract infections. And so I took some antibiotics, and then I took some more, and then I took some more. And I went through a 2 or 3 year period where I had a lot.
Wow.
And I noticed that when I was suffering, it didn't shorten the suffering, and it didn't stop it coming back a few weeks later. So I just had this awareness, was going, well, why am I doing something that isn't working for me? yeah, I see so many people still doing the same thing over and over again and not sort of questioning. So I questioned. And then in my early 20s, I was like on this hunt to find something. I'm like, there is something out there. And I don't know why I felt that. And I was walking past this clinic in Stoke Newington in North London. And I don't know, I just went in and I booked an appointment and I had no idea what I was booking in for. And it was homeopathy. And I don't know, I just liked the way that I'd sit down and somebody would listen for an hour and then they'd give a remedy at the end. And I'd see them about 3 times a year. And I noticed that my cycle was starting to become regulated because, I was having 2 periods a year then. Like I had severe polycystic ovaries and I was concerned about having children. And quite rightly, in my early 20s, I went on a journey with it. And, later I went on to have 3 children with absolutely no problem whatsoever.
That's amazing.
And I suppose what I loved about homeopathy, it was just really gentle and it was a journey and I didn't expect miracles straight away. But it wasn't just, I'd gone specifically with the PCOS in mind, the polycystic ovaries. But what I noticed were there were other changes going on in my life, like my confidence got better and I decided that, I was doing photography styling at the time and I don't know, I just would kind of look at a teaspoon and go, oh my God, is this my life that I'm checking on the shape of this teaspoon for some food packaging thing? And I'm not saving any lives doing this. I'm like, I don't think I would have thought like that before the homeopathy, or maybe I would, I don't know. But, so it was kind of an interesting journey. And then, and then you have these like key moments in your life. Like it's really interesting. So in my 30s, we'd arrived in Australia and I was like, I do not want to do food styling with young children. It's way too stressful. So I was like, okay, what do I do? So I saw these bark flower drops, walnut it was, in a health food shop over in Bondi actually. And I thought, look, I don't know whether this is going to work, but it's all about just seeing and trying, right? Giving it a go and being open-minded. By the last drop, the last dose in the bottle, I went, oh my God, I have to study homeopathy.
Amazing.
I have no idea where that kind of arose from. It hadn't really been in my mind, And then it was just like it was just there was a questioning of my confidence. Could I do it? Studying with young children. But there was just this, I don't know, this part of me that was just like, you have to do it. You have to do it.
And you got in at a good time because that's what I was just thinking. I was like, I wonder like when you studied, but it wouldn't have been an issue back then because I studied nutrition at Endeavour College and they used to offer homeopathy. The year that I think I started in 2017 and they still offered it then. And I remember because I started studying nutrition and Mum said, we've used homeopathy most of my life, and Mum said, oh, please, why don't you do the homeopathy course? It'll be so great. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not really interested. Did my first year and did all those because, I mean, I dropped out I didn't even finish year 12 and I hated science. I didn't do any biology subjects in high school. So it was like a big shock to my system doing biology, chemistry, all those base units. But then when I got through that, I was like, this whole world opened up and I was like, I want to study homeopathy. And by 2018, they'd scrapped it. You couldn't study it in Australia through any of the higher education institutions. And that was around the same time they took off homeopathy from the private health insurance cover.
Yes. Yeah. So I studied like 22 years ago or something. It took me 7 years because I had 3 young children at the time. But yeah, I remember that time, I was already fully qualified and entrenched in doing the job.
Yeah. Yes. Homeopathy is such an interesting thing because in England, I guess is it still about as popular as it was back then? Like was there a homeopathy clinic readily available at hand? You could just walk down the street and find one. Is that still kind of like that?
Yeah, I don't know because I don't really go back to England too much. But what I do know is there's a lot more homeopaths in England, and most people have heard of homeopathy. Yeah. Whereas in Australia, a lot of people just in the circles that we're in, of course, everybody's heard of them. But at least once or twice a year, I get somebody asking me what I do, and I say homeopathy, and they've got no idea.
Yeah. I mean, we grew up, you know, in America, never ever really hearing about it. And then, but you can go to most natural grocers or like organic grocery places and find a full slate of homeopathic remedies. And you just do your own work. You just look at the pictures on it and match it up with the symptoms. And I've had some really amazing effects from it. And
great.
Yeah, it's just the fact that it works so well. It's fairly affordable. You know, it's, you know, very cheap actually. And it works, but it's just not super popular because people are just so entrained in the medical system. But I remember I first heard about it from Crow 777, and they interviewed a very interesting gentleman. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. His name is Fortune Saint Germain. And he's actually the I guess he's the heir to the whole Saint Germain family. And he, you know, Saint Germain was a real person. He was a homeopath. He was a alchemist. No, sorry. Fortune Saint Germain is a homeopath. Saint Germain himself, the progenitor, was the alchemist. And he gave a really interesting history of it because the king and queen and everyone, all the royals, have always used homeopathy since it became a thing.
And they still do. It's just kept very under wraps.
Yeah. So while the rest of the world is fed the, you know, allopathic model, they're still using the really good natural stuff that works. So,
yeah. And interestingly, you know, the godfather of homeopathy, Samuel Hahnemann, you know, he said what he noticed was when he was treating the very wealthy in Paris and probably earlier before Paris in Germany as well, and he was treating the poor, he would notice he'd give remedies to the poor and they would do very well instantly, whereas the very wealthy were taking the modern medicines of the time, which, you know, pretty much as nasty or probably nastier than the medicines we have now, but very suppressive. And so he would have to, you know, he'd be clawing back those layers, giving remedy after remedy to resolve it. So it was quite interesting, the difference between the groups.
Wow. So the wealthier were taking what, like synthetic or like pharmaceutical type medications?
Yeah. So what was around then was they were doing a lot of purging. So they were giving quite crude substances, and it was all about getting the whatever it was inside out. So it was purging and encouraging diarrhea, and basically they were killing people, right? Left and centre.
Wow.
Well, they're good at that, aren't they?
Well, they were the day.
Stick to what you know.
Yeah, that's when they started giving people mercury to treat things, and you're like literally just poisoning yourself.
Yeah. So, and how amazing is that? They were using mercury in crude form. Yeah. And then when you make it into a remedy, it's ultra diluted. And so all these beautiful medicinal properties come out. And it's like, oh, my God, it has value, you know?
Yeah. And I want to ask you, Ange, because I've noticed, I don't know when it was now, it's probably a while ago, but I noticed on Instagram you've been posting some videos of you actually making remedies and are you doing your own provings? Yeah. What's that process like?
Yeah, it's like a shamanic journey where you go on a journey with the medicine to find out what it's going to heal. Because, so homeopathy is based on the laws of nature. So we see the laws everywhere. And so you can imagine if something's based on nature, it's a universal kind of medicine, right? So we can make a remedy out of anything on the planet, and everything has its own unique energy and picture and symptom picture. So so when we do a proving, it's like we get it in the pestle and mortar and we grind and we do a C1 for an hour. Not just me, but you're in a kind of group, and there's groups of threes, and you've got the pestle and mortar and you're kind of just passing it around and you're scraping and you're experiencing the remedy. Like I was there I was kind of going like this, and I could see spirals, and I was like quite obsessed with the milk sugar and the grinding, and then I started feeling so elated and smiley, and I kind of off my head a little bit. It's moving, and they were all going, "We want a bit of what you've got." And then you stop. That's the first C1, and then you go on to the C2, and then you have a different experience, and then again C3, and it's all about the grinding and the scraping of the pestle and mortar.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
C1 level is very physical. You go on to C2 and then you kind of do a different experience. And so they say 1 to 4 is very physical, but 5 to 8, the next set of hours. And you really only go to 8. But when you go more, I mean, you're talking about days and days and days of grinding and scraping. You go into the universal layers up here.
Wow.
And in between is like familial problems, universal problems, planetary issues. It's amazing stuff, homeopathy.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
incredible.
So is it done kind of the same? So on the liquid side, you would take like a drop of the solution, put it in another, portion of whatever the liquid is, and then succuss it. So with the grinding, are you taking like a little pinch of the powder and then putting it in another pot with other sugar or whatever that you're mixing it with? And what is this sugar?
Yeah, we're mixing it with milk sugar.
Milk sugar.
Yeah, and then what we do when we want to make the liquid remedy is we take one little drop or one little pinch of the powder, and then you add the alcohol, or you need some alcohol. So you do 99 parts of alcohol, 1 part of the powder, and then you're shaking. There's your remedy, and then that's kind of a 1C, but in brackets you've got to put the trituration number, which a lot of pharmacies don't do. So a lot of the medicines at the moment, we don't really know how long they've been triturated. Mostly they're only triturated up to a C3, but we really want to go to a C4. It's really important.
Yeah, I like C4. It's exciting.
Yeah, and what you like C4? What aspects come out of the remedy,
Yeah.
And then, then you can do, when you're further down the trituration process, you do 5 till, I think it's 5 till 8 or 5 till 9, I can't remember. Then you take a remedy from that. That remedy would be very different from the 1 to 4,
Yeah.
It's same, but different.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, Ange, is the titration different to the potency? Are they two separate things?
Trituration is the process of grinding the physical substance.
Yeah.
You've got, so say you're doing a plant or whatever you're doing, and you're grinding, and this is your base, you're triturating. So you're getting the energy out of the substance.
Yeah, right.
Because homeopathy is energetic medicine, right? So, there's people that absolutely love provings, and they really dive into that. And because, like this homeopathy is based on the laws of nature, it's like, well, when I do the focusing, which we'll probably get onto in a minute, it's like I go into my body and it's like I'm in consciousness itself. It's so expansive. It's like the deep well of your being. And so homeopathy is no different. It's as expansive as the universe. Like, you can take homeopathy in so many different directions, and everybody is doing their version of homeopathy, and that's so important. So, like, I know a little bit about triturating, because people know so much more than I do about that, because that's their particular, I think it's an important process. We all need to do it as homeopaths to really experience, a shamanic journey with these remedies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like anything. It just kind of deepens not only your knowledge, but your experience of it, your own personal experience of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and this is a great segue, because I love that so many people, it's kind of like been this resurgence of homeopathy, and so many people, my mum's just signed up to learn homeopathy and to become a homeopath, which is so exciting. And yes, so many people are kind of going down that path now, and it really excites me for the future that this is going to be so much more readily available to people. And like you said, I think it's like anything. It's like, the same in Western medicine as all your alternate. People are going to find different people and resonate with different practitioners. And I think everyone brings their own little flavor to it. And now you've got focusing that you sort of have brought to homeopathy, which is such an interesting combination. So tell us a bit more about your journey, about how you found focusing, maybe an overview of what it is for people, and how I'd love to hear how you combine the two.
Yeah. So it's basically called the focusing technique, but then there's little branches of it. So I do something called inner relationship focusing. And I discovered it through my meditation teacher, because he loves the process as well. And meditation and focusing just go like hand in hand. They're similar but very different as well.
Yeah.
So he ran a little course, a meditation course, which is like all around the figure of 8 and breathing. It was a very expansive, very beautiful course. And then what he did was he tagged on focusing on the end of that, but still quite an extensive, like, I don't know, 8-week course on the end, because he knew if he did a focusing course, he probably wouldn't get too many people. So he did the double course, and it was a beautiful segue into learning focusing. And I don't know, something resonated. I carried on kind of doing it. And then I thought, well, I'll do focusing 1 with Focusing Australia. And then I did focusing 2. And then I just incorporated it into my personal life. Like, I always focus in the morning when I wake up, always focus in the evening. And then if I feel, like inner turbulence going on, I close my eyes and I just drop in and I kind of feel what's going on. And, there's that beautiful saying, we need to feel to heal. And if we felt everything instead of like pushing things away, we probably wouldn't even need homeopathy, because we are our own, healer, our inner guru, right? And so, towards the end of the year, I'll go on and do the professional teacher training qualification. So, and it's not just a journey about learning a process. It's a journey into yourself, into who you really are, truly are, and finding the real you. And for me, it's the ultimate way I get to know myself. And so I don't understand people that don't want to know how they work. And I know there's a lot of fear around it, but, I want a PhD in myself, because I can then be the best human I can be, and I can be my own unique version in the world.
I love that.
Yeah. Very. So just briefly, so focusing is a form of like internal, like introspection. It's deep and profound, right? Like it's, can you describe the process just a little bit, just briefly?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you just do a little kind of dropping in process, a little meditation. And then what you're doing is you're waiting for a felt sense to arise. So you're just kind of watching your body. And the way I describe a felt sense is like butterflies in your stomach. That would be a felt sense. So, you're going about your day and then you think of something and then your stomach goes, and it's kind of like an inner anxiety or whatever, but we don't need to name it. And all we do with focusing is we just sit with it. We sit with it. And there's so many ways you can do focusing. So I do my own process in bed this morning, and I'll do it again tonight. And I'll just sit with whatever's coming up. But when we do it in pairs, it's also, there's a different flavor. So when I have a focusing partner, and Alexa and I focus. We focused last week together.
Yeah.
And again, because the energy is doubled, you've got 2 people then. So you've got your companion, and then I'm the focuser, and we do a swap. And so the companion reflects back what's going on internally for you and what you say. And so when I drop in and I say to Alexa, I go, oh, I'm feeling like this tightness in my belly. And then Alexa will go, yeah, so you're sensing there's some tightness in your belly. And I take those words of what she says and I take them back in and I go, is that what's happening for me? And then my body responds. So what I'm doing is cultivating this inner relationship with myself. And so I then go out into the world, and I know when I'm in a situation and I feel uncomfortable and I can feel it arise on the inside. It's like, okay, what's going on here? It's just like it's like this kind of compass for life.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And since doing the focusing, it's amazing how if I can get my clients to drop in below the mind into we call it the non-conceptual space, whereas the mind is a conceptual space. It's like the magic happens down here, and we can go on a bit of an archetypal journey, So this is nature, and this is like the craziness of the world out there. This is the external reality, and this is the internal reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I focused for the first time with you. God, when was that now, Ange? Must have been last year sometime, I think. And I think you had just completed, maybe it was level 2 at that point. And you were telling me about it, and you're like, yeah, whenever you want to do it, we'll do it. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll try it. And I had such a profound experience, and it was like 20 minutes. I loved the simplicity of it. And I just loved how, just gentle, and really it was just the simplicity that really spoke to me, and just allowing that time for yourself, like just that it's like this very intimate relationship that you're cultivating with yourself in that time. And I was like, oh, I've got to do this. So I ended up doing the course. I've done just level 1. And yeah, it's such a beautiful process. And really, it's like, this is the stuff, like, we should be taught this in schools. Like, kids should learn, we should learn how to do this. Like you said, like, we should have a PhD in ourselves. And unfortunately we don't. And even when I think it's very easy now because there's so much out there in the way of, all these different modalities and nervous system work and all this stuff, it's really easy to still intellectualize or over intellectualize all of this stuff that's happening in the body. And I think, we're very conditioned that way too. So we're, like, I've noticed it even, like, especially during the focusing, like learning focusing, is that even just as the things are coming up, it's, it's almost like this automatic, like we want to attach a story to it. And I'm feeling like this because of this and whatever. And focusing is not about that. It's just about literally just sitting with it and allowing it to be. And also just, it's like a, I don't want to say inquiry, because it's not even that,
No, it's not.
Yeah, not that that's invasive, but it's like this invitation to, offer your presence to it and offer whatever it needs in that moment. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful process.
Yeah, and I love listening to you speak. You explain it so well because it's coming from an experiential place. You've experienced it, so then you were talking about it. But it's one of those processes you need to experience. But everybody can do it. Everybody can go to bed at night, and it's a beautiful way to drop off to sleep. Is just bringing your awareness and just, how's my body today? What's happening? And sometimes you can feel like a little bit of, like electricity if you've had a busy day, or sometimes you struggle to get in, but the more you do it, it's like a muscle. So, that you're exercising that muscle and it will get bigger. And I have a focusing partner that's been doing it 20 years, right? And I've been doing it, 5 years. And so when we focus together, it's quite interesting because the longer you do it, you're cultivating your sense of presence, and I know the difference. So I can also see it in Jo, who teaches at Focusing Australia, that, she's been doing it 20, 25 years. I'm not even sure how long. And her sense of presence, her energy of presence it's strong, it's, and you can feel it. And then, when people cultivate this, this sense of presence, it's almost like when they talk, they're dropping into their body. Their words are coming from a deeper place. They're not coming from the intellectual mind, you listen, and then if you're listening, it's so heart-centered, and it's of such depth that you can go into presence with them when you're just talking and listening. It's magical, right?
Yeah. And I've got to say, it actually appeals to me a lot more than meditation, because, and I used to meditate when I first learned to meditate, like about a decade ago now. I really practiced it. Like every day I'd go into really quiet, deep meditation. So I know I can do it, but I've just never like loved it. I mean, apart from that first time when I really got into it, but now I'm just like, meditate. Like it feels like a chore. Like it feels like, and I totally understand that it's a practice, and it's an amazing practice because it does bring us into stillness. But what I love about focusing is that it also cultivates that same space of stillness and being in the present moment. But I kind of feel like almost meditation is a little more still kind of centered on the mind a little, because it's very much focused on, okay, so just like notice your thoughts and let them go. And for me personally, it still feels very mind centered. And I think that's why I'm always so up in the mind, that I love that this is just all about getting in the body. And I actually think there's no better way than to be in the present moment than to literally drop into the body. Like you said, like up here, up in the head is like what's everything that's going on and all the thoughts and all, it's very busy. But I feel like as soon as you drop into the body, like bang, you're in the present moment. And I love that.
Yeah, the comparison with meditation and focusing is actually fascinating, because I've been meditating with Stephen my meditation teacher, he's just around the corner and we resonate beautifully. He does similar kind of, I don't know, we're just kind of similar souls in a way. So I really get his stuff. And I've been meditating on and off with him for 10 years, and he does these kind of 5-week courses. So you're having to meditate every day. You're catching up once a week. And they are profound, I would say. If you're going to meditate every day, and be committed to the course, it's still profound. But the way that, you've got focusing here and you've got meditation here, the difference is, yes, there's benefits out of both of them, but the benefits of focusing, I don't know, you can carry them more through your daily life because it's such a simple process. Then the way it's kind of described is it's like you're here, and then when you're dropping down into your body, meditation is actually lower. You're in a deeper state. Focusing is here, but I kind of feel it's like a lift, and you go further in the lift. And it's like, yeah. And what else can I say about focusing? The benefits are huge. Like people begin to, once they start dropping in their body, they're more aware of the emotions that are arising, and the emotions don't take over. It's like, okay, I'm noticing there's some turmoil in my, in my sacral chakra, and it doesn't become all encompassing, and there's just so many benefits to focusing. And off the top of my head, I'm like, what are they?
Well, it sounds like to me like you're describing a way that you can at will kind of connect with what we would call flow state in other circles. Where absolutely. It's not busy, the anxiety, all this other stuff. You're in the body and you're experiencing it with a presence and calmness and acceptance of what it is. And I've experienced that a few times because when I was a kid, I had breathing difficulties, and those followed me when I went into the military. And I was just remembering that, like, you kind of just have to accept it if you want to keep calm and go. Like if you panic and you get tight and you're just up here like worrying, like, oh no, what if I can't breathe? What if all these things will make the body like a quick back and forth spiral downwards, like really bad. But if you just calm yourself and just breathe, because I remember there was times where I was running and there was no end to the run. I didn't know how long I was supposed to run for. They just said run. And that was a good challenge for me and a good way for me to feel my own power and to let go of the stories of the breathing difficulties. And it literally went away. I just felt like I was breathing through a straw, and I was like, okay, that's all the air I have right now. I'm just going to relax and enjoy it. And then I actually did learn to just enjoy it. And, I don't enjoy running as much anymore, but it was something that was like, instead of fighting it and living in angst and all that pressure, because that resulted in, when I was fighting it, I had like powerful stomach aches and cramps and all this stuff because I'm just like resisting everything. But just by feeling it and noticing it and just accepting it and not trying to judge it, not trying to stop it, not trying to regulate my nervous system or anything, and just being like, this is happening. And I can be okay even though it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say about the resistance. Sorry to jump in because I was pretty much going to say that same thing. That's the biggest thing with focusing is the acceptance and just the allowing. And obviously I learned this the very hard way over a very long period of time, that most of my suffering, and I believe of all humanity, most of our suffering comes from the things that we resist, whether it's emotions, whether it's situations, whether it's people. It's all this resistance. And what's that saying? What you resist will persist. And I think our capacity for acceptance and allowance is so low now in the way that we're conditioned, where we're just constantly resisting. And what happens when we do that over time? Well, of course, everything gets stored in the body. And that's why we have so much chronic illness and mental health illness, especially as well. And and I shared this with you, Ange, when we focused last week. I had such a profound experience recently with physical illness. Like I got just a cold or a flu. And Isaac had been sick for almost 2 weeks actually. And in that time, I remember I had this thought of, I wish I'd get sick so I could just rest. It's the only time I rest without any guilt is when I'm sick. And then I thought, be careful what you wish for. And then I remember thinking, no, I actually, I really would, it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't if I got sick, it wouldn't bother me at all. Anyway, I ended up getting sick. I just felt it come on. It came on very subtly. And I was like, okay, I'm sick now. You know, I made my flu bomb from Barbara O'Neill's book and made some chicken noodle soup, and I rested and whatever. It was done and dusted within 3 days. I've never had a cold or flu come and go that quickly. And I'm telling you now is because I had absolutely no resistance to it.
I love that. And I love, Isaac, what you said about the run as well, if we can go back to that, because what a kind of mind play that is when they don't tell you how long you're going to run for. Challenge, because the mind wants to know, doesn't it? And it wants to plan, and we're like, okay, I go faster here and, you know, slower there. And that's kind of psychologically really interesting.
It was very fascinating. And they did that a lot. It was a lot of just seeing if you would consistently meet the challenge with the same level of enthusiasm or focus or whatever. So
if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you have a curious mind, an open heart, and are a seeker of freedom and truth. And there is nothing more freeing than seeking and finding the truth of who you are. And this is where I'd love to support you. I'm a self-alignment coach that helps you to align with who you were divinely born to be, not who you were conditioned to be. The aim of my work is to guide you to live a more purposeful and fulfilling life that is totally authentic to you. One of the modalities I work with is Site K, where I facilitate you in transforming your limiting beliefs and perceptions into empowering beliefs that align with your goals and where you want to be in life, not where you've already been, which is often lost, stuck, or unfulfilled. I also work with Human Design, which offers an energetic blueprint of who you are and how you were designed to operate in the world. I offer readings for both individuals and couples, as it is not only an amazing tool for self-discovery and alignment, but also for understanding different relationship dynamics. So if you're ready to overcome blocks and programming that doesn't serve you anymore, unlock your potential, and harness your innate gifts, then I'd love to work with you. Get started today and book in an obligation-free 30-minute discovery call with me via the link in the show notes, and I'd love to connect and see how I can support you. Do something today that your future self will thank you for.
And so, what I was taking from that with the focusing is like when we go into the body, because, you know, this is such an external world we live in, and out there is fictitious, it's lies, it's conditioning, whatever you want to call it. And so when we sit in the body, we're in truth, right? We're in unconditional love. And so when I go into the body, I'm sitting in my unconscious mind, almost subconscious. Right? We don't need to put labels to what we're doing. So we're just dropping in. And then what I notice is these parts come up, and I sit with a felt sense, and it will share stuff with me. But the way I sit with a felt sense is it's like a shy, injured animal. So how do we sit with a shy, injured animal? Well, we don't go in their face, do we? We step back and we give it space, and we wait and we wait and we wait until this part is ready to reveal itself. And so what that teaches us, it is the most beautiful place to sit in, because it's all this is cultivating unconditional love. And it's focusing is incredibly heart-centered. And so I often can feel in certain situations I go out, I get very, I'll be touched by a lot of things in life when I hear stories and stuff. So when we sit in this space, we are starting to understand ourselves, you know. This part, you know, I could name one part that I've sat in. It's like this aspect of myself. It's like it sits under a rock, and it's like it looks out and goes, am I safe to come out into the world and be me? And then there'll be another part that will kind of want to chip in, and it'll be calling that part stupid or whatever. So there's this part here. So then you move your focus of attention onto this part and go, hello, you know, I see you, you know, and wait to see what. And then that part kind of goes, oh, I've got the attention on me, and then it wants to go away. And so if I want, you know, this part won't resolve without me dealing with this part. So it's parts work as well, you know. It's slightly different from the what's it called?
IFS. Yeah.
It's very, very similar in many ways, but they tend to name their parts a little bit more.
Yeah. I think this is so critical, because it's subtle work. It's not, you know, the big, you know, because I've done some of the flashier, like more dramatic stuff, you know, the body work and the fast breathing, you know, breath work stuff and all that. And it's, it entertains the mind quite a bit, because I'm the kind of guy that likes, like you can tell, I like a challenge, But it's the simple, quiet things, like that little part of you that wants to be known, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's in there and it's a part of you, and you can pay attention to it or ignore it at your peril. There are some things that will come up if you keep ignoring it. You know, it'll come up as a skin rash, or chronic headaches, or some problem that you're just going to keep dealing with because you won't really take the time to just sit with the little things that come up that you will walk past every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And all these parts, all they need to do is just express, and then they don't drive the bus anymore. And so what I've kind of unfolded over the last year is these parts. They're driving the bus of who you are. When we sit with them, it's almost like we're giving them a microphone to express themselves, and all they're trying to do is to protect you as a person and the way you go out into the world. They don't want you to make a fool of yourself, or they don't want you to be ashamed or get embarrassed, but it's kind of stops you stepping out. So when we listen to these parts, it's so freeing. And then they kind of they resolve and fall away, and then something else will come up. And so I kind of see it's like the sunshine. Your sunshine is your Buddha mind, it's who we truly are. And the sunshine's always there. And these parts are like the clouds, and they, sometimes they block the sun more than others. And when, the more we sit with these parts, the more they drop away. And we are getting to the essence of who we truly are, and then our power on this planet. It's amazing work.
Oh, I love how you explain that, the sun and the clouds. It's so true because, the creator of IFS, Richard Schwartz, I just started reading his book a couple of months ago. It's called No Bad Parts. And I love that because that is, we judge these parts of ourselves, and quite often, for a long time, I thought a lot of my quote unquote parts were me. And they're not. They're just something that gets overlaid over who you truly are, really just to survive. And I just love that concept. And again, bringing it back to focusing, it speaks to that so much because there is no judgment of what's coming up. And there's no identification with, oh, that's me, or this is bad, this is good, this is bad, or whatever. It is what it is. And it's such a yin process, like what Isaac was just speaking to, like all these, breath work and body work and whatever. I would say that's a lot more yang. This is such a yin process. It's just so soft and gentle and something that's very much needed. I know you spoke about this recently about how it's so important for women, and that really spoke to me. And I think that's why I've felt so drawn to focusing because, since I met Isaac, actually, I've really come a lot more into my femininity. A couple of years ago, I sort of realized I've been living most of my life in my masculine, just protecting myself and providing for myself and not allowing myself to feel that from the man in my life. And that shifted for me a lot over the last couple of years. And I do think that this, something like focusing is especially important for women that are experiencing that same thing where they're just really disconnected from their femininity.
Yeah, absolutely. And focusing really suits more sensitive people, I think. It's just because, when I've sat in with my parts, what I've noticed is this like a really ultra sensitive part to me, but then this other part wants to jump in and protect this part. It's so fascinating. And so you really start to understand yourself and yourself in relation to your environment and how you present in the world. And then what you notice is once you see your parts and understand so much more about you, you then can recognize everybody else's. And you're like, okay, so why that person? Okay, so that person over there, I feel a bit itchy, scratchy with because her part here is big. And my part, which is the opposite, is really small. And so these parts are kind of, they're,
Yeah.
And when we drop in the body, just from what you were saying a minute ago, what we learn is we're the space in between, that we're not these parts. And so when things come up in life and you want to defend yourself, you're like, well, why am I defending myself against these parts that aren't even me?
Yeah.
Yeah, such a good point.
And it's amazing how much can be present in one single moment. I had a really good therapist and counselor that I worked with when I was going through some emotional issues and some crisis, in my previous relationship. And there was a lot of sessions we did that was very similar to this. So it's so interesting because I'm like, we didn't call it that, but it was very much a very similar process. But we would take, let's say there was a moment in the day that was very heavy, like a very terrible part of the day. And we would just cautiously, carefully, go into it and freeze the moment. And then in that moment, we would go into noticing what's coming up. What are your sensations in the body? If you could name that part, what is it? And then where is it? And because you're actually picturing that whatever happened, like frozen in time. And then those parts of you, if you ask it, where are you in this moment? There's a big guy behind you that's really angry and impatient. And then there's a small one over there in the corner who just wants to hide. And then there's this, another one over there pacing that's really worried and nervous. And in that one moment, there's could be a dozen, different things going on. And then just seeing each little piece, and you can go and have interactions with each of those pieces if you choose. And it could just be there's a lot of stuff that can a lot of work, I guess, that could be done. And this is important work. This is what I would call the work. This is what's going on internally. And Absolutely. Connecting with that is connecting to yourself, and you can find a lot of peace that way.
Peace and freedom. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that. It's so similar, right? There's so many different ways that you can sort of get to the same result.
Yeah.
And I love what you said, Ange, about almost how it brings this level of compassion for other people as well. And I've actually really found that, again, such a beautiful part of the process of focusing when you're focusing with a partner, when you're companioning, because just witnessing their experience of focusing, I've had some really I don't know if I'd say profound, but definitely very, I say it's almost like an expansive experience for me, because witnessing just their experience is kind of oh, wow, that's possible for me, because everyone has such different experiences with it. And each time you do it is different. You can focus with the same partner, but every time is going to be completely different. And it's really hard to explain to people that haven't done it and haven't done it with someone. But it's a beautiful relationship, a focusing relationship.
Yeah. When you have a focusing partner and you're meeting once a week, it's actually creates such a special bond, because you're in these very delicate, vulnerable spaces. So, it's all about feeling safe. And, that's what focusing cultivates. Yeah. There was something else I was going to say about that as well.
Yeah.
So when we're in this kind of space, we're in the world of, it's a very creative place to be. So when we focus, it's not always just finding, what's emerging in the moment. You can actually go in and think of an issue in your life or a problem or something, and then you can have that there, and then you go into your body and you will find that issue in a felt sense. And so what didn't exist in that moment when you're thinking about your problem, or when you drop into the body, because you're sitting in the universe, basically, you're sitting in nature, you're sitting in yourself, and the creative possibilities, just what didn't exist one moment, are created in the next. It's magical. And so then what was an issue, you get some clarity on it, and it may resolve. And because when we're in this space, we're in the space of, it's an archetypal language, it's images, it's symbolic in nature, images arise, and we are taught, it's there'll be an analogy for something. There's so many images I've had, I've sat in my kidneys before, and they've been talking to me saying, you really need to express yourself more in life. I'm like, oh, okay. And then another time,
that's amazing.
There was this example of it was a gun, and so, or a rifle, and you've got the, Isaac, you'll probably know, but what's the thing called that's the target? You've got the light, you're shining that, and it was
Like a laser or something, or
yeah, laser, that's it.
Yeah.
So it was showing me like the laser, and it was saying, well, that's the present moment. That's where you need to have your attention always. None of this matters. That's how precise the present moment is. And what else? I've had other images as well. Oh, yeah. So the way that it was kind of explaining to me how creativity works, and that law of attraction, and how we're creative beings. So what we think, we create. So, but the universe was showing me it's like one of those old pocket watches that's got all the cogs.
Yeah.
And it was kind of saying that all the cogs have to come together. And then once that happens, everything unfolds.
Fascinating.
Love that.
Yeah.
Just listening to
very
the
deep messages.
Yeah, it's just listening to the wisdom of your body, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In the wisdom of nature. And then there was the other time I was shown, it's like you plant the seed, and the seed sits in the earth, and then it germinates, and then it puts it starts growing. It's just above the earth, and then you water it and you nurture it, and then it grows, and it was just showing me the longevity of when we do stuff. It's like we're in for the long game. So things don't need to be rushed. And there's me with this really impatient part to myself that just wants to go.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like showing me that, because I've had an image of this impatient part, right? And it's like, it's got watches everywhere on this impatient part, and there's watches on the wall, and it's marching up and down, back and forth. And it's like, yeah, that's me some of the time. And that was driving the bus.
I think I've got that part too.
Yeah.
And then that also brings in the polyvagal theory as well. It's really important for all of us doing this kind of work, to have some understanding of how our nervous system works, because when we recognize ours, we can then see where everybody else is at. And doing the focusing is cultivating presence. So then we can equate that to the nervous system. So when we're in the top part of our nervous system, like we're killing it, we're very connected with everybody, and then something happens and we go into, we drop down into the stress state. And it's like, okay, so you can catch it in the moment. It's like, okay, I'm just going to take 5 minutes out and do some focusing or do some mindfulness, just a body check, and then like, I'm back to Zen again. It's very hard in that moment when you're dropping into that part of the nervous system, the flight part, to your frontal cortex kind of disappears and then your tools fly out the window.
Yeah.
And then, then there's the next part of the nervous system, which is the compressed state. It's like, like the sad, I'm not worthy in the world. And then your story kicks in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worthy, or whatever your story. So having awareness around the different states of our nervous system is gold, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And we've had our friend Sophie Fletcher on to talk about, we did a whole episode just on the nervous system and the different states and under polyvagal theory, and the group coaching program I'm putting together, which is just about to launch, is I've actually got, because obviously I'm not a nervous system expert, I've done a lot of work with it, but I've actually got someone coming in to do a workshop, because I can't see really any kind of meaningful transformation without the nervous system piece, because it's such a huge part of how we function. And I actually heard someone say this once, and it's always stuck with me because it was the first and only time I've ever heard it. And it makes so much sense. The nervous system is the bridge between the physical and the metaphysical.
Absolutely. It's our light grid.
Yeah, and it is. It's because what's going on up in the mind is all the metaphysical. It's not our physical reality. It's our thoughts, it's our experiences, it's all of that. And then we take that, it's our perceptions. And then based on that perception, whatever's going on up there, it basically gets transmitted to the body through the nervous system. And I think it's such a crucial piece of really understanding what's going on in the unconscious, which is Living Free Festival's coming up, and this is what I'm putting my workshop together. And that's one of the things we're going to explore in the workshop is like, how do we know what's going on in the unconscious? Because I don't know if I'm going to give too much away here, but I'll say it. So we've got the conscious mind up here, and then we've got the subconscious, which is just below the level of conscious awareness. Now, the unconscious, I think it gets used interchangeably quite a lot, but the unconscious it's still within the subconscious. But if you think of it like an iceberg, and the conscious is the 5% that's sitting above the water, 95% is below the water, and the unconscious is the part that's like the deepest. So that's in like the deep, dark, black water. You don't even know it's there. You don't know what's there because that's all the repressed stuff, and that's sort of all the our youngest memories. A lot of the stuff we don't consciously remember. And I think one of the best ways to connect with what's in the unconscious is through the body, because the body stores everything. It stores all of that memory. So learning about the nervous system, that's why I think focusing is amazing, because those things are just going to come up because they're always there in the body.
Yeah, that was beautifully put. Absolutely. And when you do that kind of analogy of the water, it's exactly how I see symptoms, like you've got this giant iceberg, right? And you've got the tip above the water, which is your symptom. But your symptom are like the last thing that shows. It's been going, it's underneath the water, and we need to dive in with the torch and shine a light on that.
Yeah.
That's the gold. It's not the tip. And so we're completely brainwashed in society to go, we must get rid of that symptom.
Yeah.
No, it's like a clue. It's your body going, hello. It's the last straw, right? It's right at the end of the journey.
Exactly.
It's been doing its stuff for years underneath.
Yeah.
This stuff is so. I'm so glad to have this conversation. And if there's any men listening, and you're listening to this and you're kind of tuning out because it sounds very like yin and feminine, and you're like, well, I'm just going to go carry some concrete. That's good. Like, that's a normal, typical response. But I was so pumped to hear, and neither of you probably know who this guy is, but there's a now famous Army Delta Force operator guy, Tyler Gray, that I heard recently on a podcast, who's talking about PTSD in the military, and his view on it is very different from the predominant theory about everything. But he's like, it all comes down to, because PTSD isn't just specific for the military. Anybody can have PTSD for a whole range of reasons. And his experience with it, he's like, I had a dysregulated nervous system. It wasn't post-traumatic stress disorder, because the most like traumatic events in my life, he's like, I wasn't messed up over those. I was actually missing having that adrenaline shock in that chaotic environment, because that mirrored his childhood. And he was saying his problem was the nervous system. And then he was the only military guy I've ever heard mention polyvagal theory. And I was like, this guy gets it. That's exactly the path you need to go down, because, someone like him, and just anybody that's, capable and strong and potentially violent, you need to get a hold of that nervous system, because that's where you get, spousal abuse. That's where you get all these other issues, because your emotions, you think you're just intellectual, smart guy, but your emotions will run the show, without you even, without you even knowing it, without your permission. And if you ignore this, bad things can happen. And if you want to do the work and, have some courage and go inward, you can prevent a lot of heartache and problems.
And it all makes so much sense when you have some awareness around your nervous system. I heard this, I wrote it down. I wonder if I can find it. Oh, yeah. This, I was listening to something to do with polyvagal theory and stuff, and it was a definition of what trauma is. Trauma is a chronic disruption of connection. Yeah, is a chronic disruption of connection. So if that happens in your childhood, you have a chronic disconnection with your parents, that is trauma. So let's talk about two types of trauma in your childhood. And one is, the disconnection is like, what didn't you get throughout your childhood? Oh, you weren't mothered, or, people weren't there for you, or it's what happens to you, or, some people get both. When you know that, you just go click, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another way I've heard trauma explained from, again, this is more from like the nervous system perspective or like nervous system experts that I listen to. They say that trauma is just anything that happens that you can't process in the moment, and it kind of gets locked away. And it's a really interesting perspective because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, like the resistance. And don't get me wrong, there are times where it is completely appropriate to resist the experience when we're talking about, you know, severe cases of quote unquote trauma, like capital T trauma, like sexual abuse, physical abuse, those kind of things. That's when it is completely appropriate to have a dysregulated nervous system because something's happening to you that shouldn't be happening to you, you know, in a perfect world. And it's just a really interesting, I actually love that explanation of it because it really brings in that different perspective of like, oh, like I wasn't abused as a child, but I had like, you know, in my case, I was bullied in school by my group of girlfriends. That was extremely traumatic for me. I obviously didn't know that at the time, but the sort of the repercussions that have unfolded throughout my life because of that experience, it's really evident to me now that it was traumatic. And again, having the knowledge of the nervous system, I know when I'm going into that state of like, I feel like everyone's against me and I feel all those feelings that I experienced for that first time within that group of friends. And that's why like this, having this level of awareness is so beneficial because like you said, we are what's in the space between. So when these other parts are coming online to protect and, you know, we're going into the fight or flight, we can have, and, you know, Yerasimos, who we've had on the podcast as well, I love, he always shares the quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's the tension, the standing between the tension of opposites and like basically having the space to decide which way you go instead of just going into the automatic fight or flight, freaking out, emotional, whatever. It's having that space, having the awareness to go, okay, I can see what's happening here. How do I want to respond to this?
So you have a choice in the moment, right?
Absolutely.
I experienced something with my partner, and it was recently, and it was quite interesting to experience. He lives in Melbourne, I live in Sydney, so we don't see each other every other couple of weekends, alternate weekends. And we've been together a year and a half, and I was down there, and he kind of like barked at me, which is really unusual. And then I caught it. There was this thing arose in me, and it was like I was actually just gonna, for the first time in a year and a half, shout at him. And I felt it arise. I noticed it and went, oh, isn't that interesting? I was just about to defend myself. But I didn't do it. I didn't let it overtake me. And then I kind of went, oh, okay, what's going on here? And I kind of sat back down and I kind of dropped into my body. He was busy doing stuff. And so I was able to, in the moment, and then I kind of got shown what I'd said beforehand, which was like just a gentle little, we do that all the time. And he said later, he said, it was actually nothing to do with you. I was just like busy with all the stuff I wanted to do and I wanted to set sail. But it was just the way I caught it in the moment. I sat back down. I got reflected. I literally got shown. It wasn't from here. It got shown, well, like he did say something about the table and the chairs that you can't sit there because it's full of rubbish. What do you expect kind of thing,
Yeah.
But just to have that power in the moment to catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. That's something that in that moment, that's a victory. I love that because how many times have we been in that same type of situation where there was no catching that or no
all through COVID, everyone on the planet.
Yeah, it's just like just mad dogs.
Yeah,
COVID was really interesting for me actually. I was really busy because everybody wanted support with their vaccines and stuff, and it was one of the busiest like 3 months I think I've ever had, like 6-7 days a week. And I remember being at home because I work from home, and there's all this like mayhem, COVID going on outside, and I was just like looking around, I could see the sea, I could see Narrabeen Lake, and I was going, well, there's no COVID in my world, this is just, I'm here, I'm breathing, the sun's out, I'm in the most perfect environment, I'm in a beautiful part of the Northern Beaches. And in that moment, it kind of clicked and went, So the press have been lying since inception. And there was just these clicking moments. It's like,
Yeah.
And I was able to stay in my body and not be caught with it.
Yeah.
And that's when we have our true power, right? When
Yeah.
all the chaos is going on around us and we can just come back to ourselves. And it's the same with AI, actually. You just come back to you are the tree, you are with the roots in the ground, and nothing, obviously some things do rock you, but the consistency of COVID and how long it went on for was kind of laughable, really.
Yeah.
And so you come back and you're just there, and you know that when you sit back on the mountaintop, you don't get caught up in the drama of what's going on, and you see it for what it is, and you know in a couple of years, it's inevitable. Everything changes constantly.
Yeah.
So, and that's what focusing teaches you. The changeability. You're in your body, and in a moment, the creative juices kick in, and the potential, the possibility, the creativity's kicked in, and something's changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually want to ask you, Ange, because I know that you focus in nature a lot, and it's something I've actually never done. I definitely want to experience it. So I'd love to hear, well, especially because you're just talking about, especially with like, sort of like tapping in. Obviously, with focusing, we're tapping into our innate wisdom within us. But I'm curious, like when you're out in nature, do you feel like that connects you more to God, universe, source, and that brings more of that into your body? Or like what's your experience when you're out in nature doing focusing?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And that also brings me back to the few ways you can do focusing. Like you can do it yourself, you can do it in pairs, you can actually do it. I've run a circle before and I've got everybody to drop into their bodies.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the energy of a circle, and then you've got sort of 10 people doing it. It would be good to get somebody that's really in their headspace into the circle and see whether because I'm sure of the energy of the group, they would be able to drop in and have an experience. And quite a few people had symbolic journeys. So you can do this. I just love it that you've got choices with focusing. And so it was around the kind of winter equinox. I just felt the call. I just needed to go within, but the call was to go within in nature. And it was so strong that I couldn't deny it anymore. I'm just like, this is fascinating. Like I didn't feel that last winter. And that's due to the focusing, that you are so much more connected to your body, and your body is nature, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes I don't need to go and sit in nature out there. I just, drop in my body and I'm in nature, right? But then you've got the power of going into nature. So I have a friend that I do women's circle work with, and she lives in the Hunter, and she's got a huge property there. So I just go and camp and I focus in nature, and I don't have a phone. I don't have anybody else. And it's kind of like just me and the trees. And I don't drop into my body all the time, cook and, sleep and stuff, but I make an effort to, focus a few times a day. So I went and sat on a chair, and I had the trees behind me, and I've got the grass, and I've got the labyrinth over there, and I'm sensing, I feel really held, like I'm held by what's around me. And I dropped into my body, and, it takes a little time to go really deep. And I was gone. I was deep. And then I was kind of surfacing towards the end. So I don't know, you're going into the timeless realm. I don't know how long I've been sat there. Could have been 30 minutes, could have been an hour. I don't know, time's kind of irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
And then just towards the end, I heard this sound came from nowhere, this beautiful bird song, and then it kind of retreated back into the stillness. I was not aware of any bird, and I could not sense any bird around me. It's kind of bizarre. And then after that, this bird flew over the top of me and left this energetic trail that just kind of over the top of my head. It kind of affected the whole of my body. I was just like, wow, it's like I was merging with nature in a way.
Wow.
And so I think with what unfolds with the focusing is you're spending time in this space of nature, which is us and nature itself, that there is no separation. So you become so much more aware of our oneness, than being separate. And I think it's really important to spend time in this space, however that is for you, like meditation or whatever, because this space, the external space out there in society, couldn't be more opposite to that space. They are two polar opposites.
Yeah.
It's like I go out into the world and people tell me how I should be. I come back into my body and it's who I truly am, and I'm nurturing that part of myself in unconditional love. And, it's the way, the flow, and homeopathy exists in that space because it's based on nature's laws. There's endless possibilities. It's creative. It's harmless. It's life supporting is what it is. And if we realized how life supporting and that everything we do in the world is, if it's good, if it's for the people's highest good, your highest good, then you are fully supported in your decisions and the universe will conspire to help you.
Absolutely. And so I'm glad you brought it back around to this, because I forgot to ask you this earlier, but how are you using the focusing with homeopathy? So I'm assuming like this is with your clients that you're seeing. Are you getting them to drop into their body to, like, has it got anything to do with the remedies you're going to give them, or is it just more when you're taking their case to get them to drop in? Like how exactly do you incorporate it?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I'm doing my own version of homeopathy. So kind of like I'm working with people longer term now. So I see them week in, week out. And what I do is I don't necessarily give remedies straight away. Like this is an unfolding process. So usually around week 3, week 4, it becomes so obvious about what remedy they need. And so then the pressure's off with choosing a remedy, because it is a big pressure in homeopathy that, you've got to get the remedy right the first time. You've met this complete stranger for the first time. You've got to know exactly what remedy. So it's so good to have other tools, right? So if they can, get still and drop, we can go on a really archetypal journey together. Like I've mentioned this before. I had one client that she dropped into her body and she was marching around the lake, and she had all these soldiers dressed in all their iron gear. And it was so beautifully archetypal. It was about protection and security in the world. And then she just conked out.
Oh, wow.
I can't even remember how long. It could have been like 45 minutes, because this stuff is deep work, right?
Yeah.
But then I get some clients that just are not able to drop. So then we can use the Work of Byron Katie, right? So what's going on? What thoughts are coming up? What's the pattern? And then, it's I'm not good enough. So we go, well, is that true? Can you absolutely know that's true? And how do you react? What happens when you're believing the thought, I'm not good enough? And then there's lots of sub-questions you can ask, and you kind of explore that. And by just asking those questions and becoming a little bit still and doing the process slowly, you notice people are dropping a little bit into their bodies. And then the next question will be, where are you feeling this in your body? I go, oh yeah, I've got this tightness on my chest, or this sensation. And there, great. We can carry on doing the Byron Katie work, or we can drop in the body and do focusing. What a great choice, And then with the Byron Katie, if you stick with that, it's like, well, turn the thought around. Okay, so I am good enough. Oh yeah, I'm good enough for parenting. I'm a great mother. I'm good enough for my friends. They seem to love me. They're still in my life. And so you kind of, where we have these thoughts are like tunnel vision, it kind of begins to crack open and we see possibilities. So the work of Byron Katie is, she's really individuated and found her thing, which is questioning thoughts. And it is the work of unconditional love. It is it's fifth dimension stuff. It's incredibly powerful, and anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the that conversation we had with Jerry Marzinski about the stuff that he's into now with dealing with non-physical beings, like entities projecting negative thoughts into people's heads. And whether it's a being or whether it's just something that's attached from like an experience, when you question it, when you just say, is this true? And if it's not true, you can call it out as a lie. You can be a bit more confrontational if it's something that's very harmful. But just questioning the thoughts is such a useful thing to do, and something it seems obvious, but I think a lot of people aren't on that path or aren't on that level or that frequency or whatever of thought where you can question the thoughts. You should, and not necessarily that every thought is untrue, but there's polarity, and there's maybe the opposite is also true. Maybe there is part of you that's not good enough, but is that a bad thing? And who sets the standard for enough? You know, and it's like, I can be open to wanting to improve myself without feeling shame and hurt over it. And then I can also temper that with, you know, there are things that I am very good at, that I am good enough at, that balance that. So it's not just where your mind gets kind of in that rut, that well-worn path of like, oh, you got to do better. You got to do better. You got to do better. Cause I was like that for a lot of years. And, yeah, it's becoming more in touch with more of who you truly are.
And you say, you know, that you were like that for many years, but, you know, I think the whole of the human race is like that. You know, this is our challenge in life. And, you know, just to come back to who we truly are and know that everybody is suffering. Really, this is the plight of planet Earth, right? Dense and heavy. And probably when we leave, we get a PhD. It's like, congratulations, you managed it. And do you want to go back again? And we go, yes, okay. I want to help down there. I want to change it.
Yeah, and I love that you're doing this work, with the homeopathy, because that's, like you said, when you talked about the provings earlier and the titration, have I said it right this time?
Titration, yeah.
Yeah, and how you're basically like, the more you do that, you're going deeper and deeper into, you know, from the physical more into, you know, the lineage and the universal. And I think that's such an important part. I mean, because it's so funny. Like, I've literally used homeopathy from like pretty much as far back as I can remember, pretty much all of my brother's life, and he's almost 30. And we never knew, like, obviously, because we just went, we'd get, you know, have our consults and get our remedies, and they always worked, and that's all we needed to know. But like, now learning about miasms and, you know, how we can sort of heal the generational stuff that's within us, I just think that, anything that you combine that's going to take you to those deeper layers when you're working with people is just going to be so much more beneficial, because it's like, not only are you going to get the right remedy for what they need, that remedy is going to go even deeper in what it's doing.
Yeah. And if I was to, you know, what has, with the focusing, what it has taught me is if I did in the future, because we don't know what's happening in the future, who knows where I'm going to end up with this. If I did want to teach homeopathy, you know, what I would teach is like, I would teach the basics that you need to know, and then focusing, because what focusing, it's universal language. It's teaching you your version of homeopathy. And it teaches you it calms down your nervous system. So you're in the flow from, you know, the Mother Gaia to the cosmos. So your central channel is clear. And, you know, I've had it quite a few times where you're in consult and the remedy will just appear. So nurture the focusing side, get really good at that, creating presence and knowing who you are. You can go out and be the best version or a continuing better version of yourself in the world, and not be sidetracked by things that aren't in alignment with you. Because it's like you become more like the tree with the roots in the ground, and what I call the BSO, the bright, shiny objects. It's like they're a distraction in life to what your path is. You know, oh, breath work, I like that. Let's go do that. Oh, Psych K, I love that. Let's go do that. No, you know, once you've spent some time in here with yourself, it's so obvious what's good for you and what's not. It's a resonance thing. It's like, yes, I like that. That's coming into my life, because you're cultivating, we're focusing, you're cultivating heart energy. And at the end of the day, love is all there is, right? This is the universal language. We just all need to come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that's why, going back to how it's such a yin process, the yin is the receiving. And again, I've had an experience of this recently. Actually, it was in the time that I was sick. What I just shared earlier about, just no resistance to the sickness. This was actually in this period where, I'd been just like, go, 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 go. I said yes to way too many things, doing all this business coaching, doing all these, putting my group coaching program together. It was so hectic. And I did, I couldn't sustain it. And then I kind of like sort of fell off the wagon, just kind of stopped doing everything, felt a bit shit about not doing anything because that's, you just got to keep going. And then I just had this period of like a few weeks where I just stopped. Like I just came back more into me. And I'm telling you, the amount of stuff that dropped in, not immediately, like I probably had a couple of weeks where I was, because a lot of stuff was coming up emotionally too. And again, it's like, well, why are these things coming up? Because, like you say, I love it, you say like these parts that are driving the bus. When these parts kind of take over, you kind of lose, like you said, like the bright, shiny objects, and you kind of lose like, why you were doing what you were doing in the first place. It's kind of almost lost its purpose in a sense. And so there was a couple of weeks of that. And then like the couple of weeks that followed after that, so many things dropped in because I wasn't chasing it. I wasn't thinking about the next thing. I wasn't trying to figure it out. It was just like, oh, you need to do this. Oh, this idea. Oh, that's a great idea. And I was just like, oh my God, I really needed that time. And again, it's just always this reminder of like the balance. It's not that we stop and don't do anything at all ever again. It's just having that balance. It's having the doing, but having just being able to sit and be with yourself, I just think is so crucially important. And as a society, as a collective, I just don't think we do that often enough.
No, definitely, because we're a very, very heady culture. And it's quite interesting because, like we're in here a lot, but other cultures say we don't understand white people. You say you think from your head, but we think from our heart. And then another culture will say, well, we think from our belly, our instinctual down here. So, when heady energy is very male, it's like driven, it's like do, and it overrides the feminine part, right? So what we want to, what I see is when we want a balance of mind, body, and spirit, and when we're in the middle of that, we are one powerful person on this planet.
Oh yeah,
and it goes back to that safety and that the need to protect. Like if you're in danger, the masculine part needs to step in to alleviate the danger and then create a safe, protected environment for the feminine to come out and flower and to do its work and to be fully expressed. So likewise, inside of a man, inside of us, there is that yin part that's, it's a bit smaller, but it's very important. And so you need to create that safety and allow that part to nurture and nourish the rest of you. And with that connection to that, you're just more expressed of who you truly are. But I wanted to go back and connect something, because this something you said earlier has been like marinating. I was like, oh, that's that definition of trauma that you read. I hadn't heard that before. And could you just read that again real quick? Because I have a question about
that. I was listening to what's her name? Dana or something. She's quite heavily into the polyvagal. She's written a book called Anchored. But she said trauma is a chronic disruption of connection. And I can relate to that as a child. I'm a mentally ill mother. I know what that feels like. To not be mothered is traumatic.
Yeah,
totally.
Well, and thinking of it from the chronic perspective and living without something, I was like, I wonder if, like, you can see this if you ever read Angela's Ashes, a book about poverty and that chronic living without what you need to live, for your family, food, warmth, shelter, all that stuff. Poverty in that light could be a form of trauma. And I think about that. I've experienced a bit of that. I think I have that in my lineage, and I've felt it physically in my body when dealing with money matters and stuff, almost as if it's like a PTSD response or like this anxiety cropped up out of nowhere around the issue of money. And I think a lot of people have experienced that, but aren't thinking of it in the terms of it as a form of trauma or approaching dealing with it like you would a trauma, where you start with a polyvagal and you get to know like in the body and you let these feelings come up around money. There's so many issues around that. What do you think about connecting that to trauma?
Yeah, all of that stuff can be connected. It's all trauma. It's all traumatic. All those experiences are, they rewire your nervous system, right? We need food to survive, right?
Yeah.
We need money. We need a roof over our head. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then especially when it comes down the lineage as well, that's another. But again, sit in the body, feel it. Where does it sit?
Yeah. And I think, because we spoke to someone recently, I think it was John on John Kai Wallace's episode, and he said, not everything's trauma. And I think that's unfortunately in the age of social media and the internet and everything just spreads like wildfire. I think trauma has become such a big thing where everyone's like, we're always dealing with our trauma and everything's trauma and trauma. And it's like, yes, that can be the technical term for it, but sometimes it's just the life experiences that we have. And so, again, like going back to, when we talk about focusing, it's like not labeling things. It's like, it doesn't even need the label of trauma. It's just understanding what it is on a fundamental level. Because, like Isaac just said, it's like, he's like, it's hitting me now that could be quote unquote trauma. But at the end of the day, it's just an experience that you've had that, like you said, Ange, has wired your nervous system a certain way. And then that's how we experience and express that quote unquote trauma is going to be so different for everyone. Because I also thought, and I think a lot of people do this when they start moving into this space. They think like trauma's got to be like something really severe, like, abuse or extreme poverty or, like all this big stuff. And it's like, it doesn't have to be the big stuff. Like I said, my experience of bullying when I was young, I didn't think that was traumatic for most of my life. It's not been until recent years when I've started doing this really deep work that I'm just like, holy shit, that really affected me really quite a lot. On top of all, the familial stuff, because, we don't go through life unscathed. I've got my parents are still together. I've grown up in a very stable household, and I've still got quote unquote traumas from my childhood and my relationship with my parents. And it's nothing major, but we all have it. And, I think that there's so much beauty in this work. And again, it's just really about bringing the awareness. It's cultivating that presence and not being scared of it and not judging these things and just accepting like, this is my experience and it's always an opportunity for growth.
Right. Talking about trauma, I think the more that we, it's the word at the moment, isn't it? Trauma. But which is a good thing because it needs to kind of go over into the conventional medical system and then, like integrate over there. And it probably will in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I'm not sure.
Right.
But I had this major awareness when I was doing Focusing 2. It was a 10-week course. And I was also I had done a bit of breath work. I'd gone into ceremony and as well as doing the focusing, which is it's a lot of letting go in 10 weeks. And when we let go of stuff, that's also a bit traumatic.
Yeah.
It can be if it's done with intensity. So, it was an intense period. And also if we've had trauma in the past and we kind of align with wanting intense experiences, which is interesting because then suddenly when you kind of release all that trauma, you come back to you and intense experiences are no longer the bright, shiny object. It's like, I'm coming back to me in stillness. And this is way more exciting than the bright, shiny object out there. But so I'll go back to the experience I was going to share. I was kind of walking across the lounge and I was going through the focusing and I was doing a lot of letting go. And it kind of felt like I was falling through the air without any safety net. So I was having some quite frightening experiences as well. I was supported by everybody around me, which was great. I walked across the lounge and in that moment, all my beliefs or one particular belief about my childhood just completely fell away in that moment. And it was like I was in a void. It was like, oh my God. So my childhood's based on a lie. My mum was mentally ill. No, she wasn't. She had trauma.
Yeah.
It was this just like clicking moment. And I went, if only I could have known that as, knowing the root of why somebody is the way they are makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
And having a conventional medical health system, or having the health system that we have, that hasn't really incorporated the root cause of things. You know, we've got a long way to go with our health system.
Yeah,
100%. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ange. I've got to say, I know you're on the right path, because when you speak about this stuff, especially focusing, like I actually had after I did my course, I was focusing regularly still after that. And then it kind of dropped off. Actually, in that real busy period where I was just like doing. Of course, focusing goes out the window. And hearing you speak about it again when you're on the Living Free movement platform, I was really inspired. And even just after this conversation again, I'm just like, it's this whole other world to be explored. And it is really exciting. And I definitely implore people to look up if this feels like it's speaking to them. Look up, for those in Australia, look up Focusing Australia. I'm sure there's other, like, they can learn it around the world, right? Yeah.
Focusing Australia here in Australia. And I know there are individual practitioners that also teach it. And there's also the Focusing Institute in New York that does online stuff. But as Alexa, as you were talking, you know, I can feel my heart energy here. It's just like,
yeah.
You know, when you're speaking the same language with somebody, you know.
Yeah, I love it. So please let people know how they can get in touch with you if they'd like to work with you, and all of your offerings at the moment.
Yeah, so my website you can check, which is angelanicholson.net.au, but they're all on the notes under the podcast and YouTube and everything. So just click on those.
Yeah, and you'll also be presenting a workshop at the Living Free Festival.
Yeah, which I've had even no space to think about.
Yeah, same. Same. It wasn't until like literally a couple of days ago. I'm like, it's next weekend. I need to put my workshop together. But it's
what day are you on for that?
Well, Alexa, I think you're just before. I think I'm at 5 on the Friday. And what time are you on it, Alexa?
Yeah, I'm on at 4.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're just before me. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
But I'm also managing the first aid tent and selling products. It's like I need to be at all places at all times.
Yeah. No, it'll be good. I already checked out the schedule because I was like, I feel like I'm going to be really torn between the main stage and the workshops. But I saw yours and I saw it was on the main stage. I'm like, I'm definitely going to hang around for Angie's workshop. And there's so much good stuff on. I'm so excited. It's going to be such an incredible event.
But you'll have a stall there too, won't you?
Yeah. We'll be there with Natural Art Form. Oh, we're really Isaac's emceeing. I'm doing a workshop, just that one workshop on the Friday, and then we've got the stall. So we literally have to be at all places at all times.
It'll be quite tired. We're quite exhausted by the end of it, but it's such a beautiful vibe there. So
we should just bring in a vending machine for Natural Art Form, a homeopathic vending machine. Just be like, just put your money in, it'll give you what you need. Like
I think Isaac's onto something. It's new side hustle there, right there.
It's all about freedom. All right.
Thanks so much, Ange. Can't wait to see you next weekend, and we'll chat to you soon.
And thank you, guys. I love your work. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the Natural AF podcast, where we explore holistic healing modalities, mindsets, and methods that reconnect us to nature and our natural state of being.
If something resonated, share this episode and see the show notes for our guest links, as well as all of our discount codes for our aligned affiliates and Natural Art Form, where we handcraft a range of organic, natural remedies to help support your body's natural healing abilities and help support the show.
If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please take a few seconds to leave us a rating and review. And if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, hit the like button and drop us a comment, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for the latest updates.
We're not here to conform, we're here to remember what's real. So step into your power, be curious, and be natural AF.